Boruto episode 25, The Turbulent Field Trip. Now this is the second sort of filler episode coming off of Sadara's arc. Last episode we had, the Boruto Sadara thing going through, and I mentioned in that review, I was surprised how much I liked that episode. They actually had a lot of great tension to it with the 5 Kage Summit, and, Boruto and Sadara having like the little action sequence at the end of the episode. It was really decent. And then going into this, I was like, here we go with another filler that seems even less relevant. The only thing I was really looking forward to was the fact that the kids were going to the Hit and Miss village. So I was like, alright, well, we'll actually get to see another village in modern times. So I was looking forward to that, but outside of that, I wasn't really excited for this episode. But ultimately, I didn't hate it. It wasn't, I wouldn't say I enjoyed it nearly as much as I liked the last episode, because I felt like that gave me a lot of sense of like the original Naruto series and and Shippuden, because the 5 Kage meeting, it was just a lot of tension to it, and it was like, this is what's happening right now, and clearly this moment is going to lead to greater things to come. So I thought it was really well done. And this, I think we all know for sure it's still going to be however many episodes, maybe 3 episodes, but it's just going to be like this small little arc that's contained. But it wasn't bad. We have the kids. There are definitely some funny moments in here for sure, but the thing that was really exciting was Iwabe. And I don't know exactly where they're going with him, but it's clear that he's going to have a big focus during, this small little arc, however many episodes it ends up taking. And that's what has me excited, because once they got to the village, I was like, okay, this is cool. We actually get to see the village, which is nice. But then they officially dive into some of the darker content, which is whatever this stuff is that Iwabe knows about the village. And, he talks a lot of stuff, mostly about things that we've seen. Like, one of the big things about this episode that I realized was they're going to the Hit and Miss village as their first time, not counting Sadara's story arc. This is like the first time they have a true destination. That was like just some place somewhere. This was like, we're specifically going here within the world. And it's like, that's of course the first place they go to in the original, the very first series. That's like the first big boss fight and everything was Zabazan Haku. So I thought it was very cool that they ended up going to the Hit and Miss village. And it's just nice. It's like the Hit and Miss village apparently is the last place, and that was once again one of the little things that I enjoyed. They talk about how despite all the peace that they've had, the Hit and Miss village is still like somewhat separated, which I thought was really weird, because it's like, it's not like the Hit and Miss village wasn't there. It's not like the Mizukage, like she wasn't involved or anything like that. And they just literally, the last episode, the most recent Mizukage, I think he's the 6th, and I believe she was the 5th, or he's the 7th, I can't remember. But it's like, it seemed weird. I was like, that's interesting that they still, just that village being what it is, despite them having been a part of the Shinobi Alliance, it's still a bit odd for them. So I was like, that's actually a cool concept. And even though they went through this grand war where it's like everyone comes together all at once, it's still some tension there. Because the Hidden Mist Village, the nickname really is the Bloody Mist Village, because they have some dark people there. I mean, Kisame was there, of course, Zabuzan Haku, even though Haku was like adopted. But it was very interesting. I like the concept of that, and it seems like they're going to be diving into that in the next episode for sure. But, we have the kids doing their thing. They do a lot of little stuff in this episode that I like. Like, even the beginning of the episode, we have Naruto talking with Iruka and Anko, and they have Boruto messing with Iruka, which I thought was really funny, that there's this rumor that Iruka wears a wig. But they threw out this little reference, and it's, it's nothing new for me, but I love the reference, because it was like, Boruto was trying to do like this technique, and Anko was like, was that like a wind style thing? And she was like, that's interesting, because elements haven't even been, put into the curriculum yet, like, the wind style jutsu and all that stuff. So I thought that was actually pretty awesome. I was like, that was a slick way to do that, to kind of hint towards something fairly obvious there. But I thought that was a cool way to do that. And then, like I said, the mentioning of how the Hidden Mist Village is still a bit distant from the whole, the former alliance that basically the entire Shinobi world had. And I thought that was cool. I was like, I like these ideas. Had some funny stuff. I don't know, Sadara throwing Boruto under the bus. That actually was a really funny sequence to me, where she's like, I think Boruto should do it. And Shikadai instantly is like, that's a great idea. And everyone's just like, yeah, he should totally do it. And of course, he's chained up, and Sumini even doesn't want to do it. And she looks at him, and she just like turns away in shame. And it's like everyone kind of just throws him under the bus as the leader, and I just thought that was a really funny sequence. But I like that moment. I thought that was like a really good, funny moment in the episode. But you know, everyone's going on this adventure. We have, you know, they kind of reference Sadara a little bit with her character having changed over time, especially with her most recent arc. So I like that they keep referencing that, especially with her being, you know, one of the three main characters when we finally get to our three-man team. I'm glad that they, even when it's really small, after her arc is, you know, officially completed now, it's like she's in there. It's like she is relevant, and we get to see that relevance show up, even if it's in, you know, bits and pieces like in this episode. So there's little stuff that they did that I really, really enjoyed. And then, like I said, once they finally got to the village, we end up meeting Kagura, which I don't know why they chose that name because it's so close to Kaguya. It took me the whole episode to realize that it was an R and not a Y when they were saying it. Because I'm like, why'd they give him the same name as like the final villain of Shippuden? And then I was like, oh, it's an R, not a Y. It took me like the entire episode to realize that. But he comes in, he is like the right-hand man of the current Mizukage, which I thought was interesting. He's got like bright pink eyes, which I thought was a really interesting character design for him. He's got, I'm assuming that's a tattoo. I don't know if he's got a crazy pink scar that would be interesting, but I would assume it's a little tattoo on his face. But he does remind me a little bit of, I mentioned this before in my last review, but he reminds me of like the Shorter Jinchuriki, the guy with the staff. But it was cool. You know, he shows up, he's like, hey, you know, I'm basically like the ambassador pretty much for everyone coming in. And I thought it was fairly simple. You know, it starts off really simple. The girls are like fawning all over this guy. And, you know, they're walking around, they're just taking pictures, the guys are getting cards and stuff like that. And Sadara notices that Iwabe is kind of like walking off doing his own thing, so she tells Boruto to go after him, and she tells Denki to look after Boruto because he's going to screw up. So they go after him, and that's when things start to get dark, and they run into this dude. And this is something I realized, like, once the last two guys came in, I can't remember their names, but I realized a lot of the people in the Hit and Miss village walk around like samurai. Like, Kagura, when he first showed up, I just thought that's just his ninja weapon. You know, he has a katana. But the other two guys, like, the guy had, you know, he kind of had like an afro, which I thought, he had a cool design, but he had like the whole, like the rope bandana pretty much around his head, and he had a blade too. I was like, it's interesting how everyone kind of looks in this. Like, they look like, you know, old school samurai, because there actually are samurai in the world, but they're supposed to be ninja. So I just thought it was interesting that all their designs, like even in the promo, when they run into like the other, I'm just going to call them gang members at this point, but even them, I'm like, they kind of remind me a lot of like old school, like samurai stuff, like, you know, Samurai Champloo and actual old samurai Ronin movies. And I was like, it's very interesting. They all look like a bunch, like a big gang of Ronin or something, like walking around like katanas and stuff. And just even without the actual weapons, like their actual clothing reminds me a lot of like Ronin. So I feel like that's the point of that, is to be like, they're like almost a gang of Ronin just walking around, which are samurai that have no master, for anyone who doesn't know that. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, just their design makes me feel like they're all supposed to kind of be like samurai or something. But they run into these guys, and it was about to be really simple, because Boruto was like, you know, my bad, no big deal. And then Iwabe being Iwabe, I thought he was just causing an issue out of nowhere, but then it starts to, and he kind of was, because it seemed like the guy was still going to let it go, like, oh, this little punk from the Hidden Leaf village apologized to me, so I'll, you know, whatever. But Iwabe is like, hey, you knew he was there, like, you know, you could have moved out of the way or whatever, you didn't have to stand right behind him. And that's when things start to become a bit of an issue. And it was a really tense little moment. I really love that, because we don't really get that in Boruto very often. But I love the way they ended this episode, because we have the first guy come in, and then his buddy comes in, and it's like, hey, you know, back off. And so he comes in, this dude with like the super long hair and the full red outfit and everything. And he's super fast. Like, he gets up on Boruto, and he, like, you know, Boruto's like backed against the wall. He's starting to sweat and stuff, because he knows these two guys, you know, they're much older, they have more skills. So it's like, you know, it's nice to meet you guys and all that stuff. And then they kind of take off, like, sorry about that, no big deal. But Iwabe was like ready to fight, and then they showed Denki, and even he was ready to fight. Like, he was freaking out. He's like got his shuriken, and he's in a pose, like ready to, you know, fight, because it's like, we don't know what's about to happen here. And I like that little moment of tension. It was just like, they knew things were tense, but then the guy was just like, we'll do this later. And he takes his buddy, he's like, you know, see you guys around. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then, of course, he's like, you know, welcome to the Bloody Mist village. And that's where pretty much where it ends. And then, like, a bunch of fog grows into the town. And I just thought that was a really cool way to end the episode. It was like a nice little bit of tension. I don't know what they're going to do with Iwabe, but it seems like it should be fairly exciting if they go into his backstory. I highly doubt it, but this could be how they decide to take him out of the series for a little while. Well, I mentioned this a million times. Stanky and Iwabe have got to go in some regard, unless they decide to just retcon what they did with the Boruto movie stuff. But it seems like they're going to touch on his past, because we saw that he was there in the episode where Naruto actually was becoming Hokage. So we saw that Iwabe was there, and he was a kid, but he easily could have been from the Hidden Mist Village. We know nothing about his character outside of the fact that he's good with Earth-style jutsu and that he flunked a few times, which is partly the reason why he's so good with the jutsu, because he just had more time to practice than everyone else. But it was just really interesting. Like, I don't know what we're getting from him, but it's very clear he has some dark ties to the village. So, like, maybe they killed his parents and he lives with, like, his grandparents or an aunt or uncle in the Hidden Leaf Village, and he had to leave his former life behind in the Mist Village because, like, his whole family got killed or something, you know, his parents got killed or something crazy like that. But it's clearly dark. Otherwise, it wouldn't, like, he's always the laid-back character who doesn't really give a crap. In the whole episode, he was just mad, like, something's gonna, basically just, when something goes wrong, you know, I'm ready for it. Like, it's pretty much how he was the entire episode. So this is really interesting, because that just means we're gonna get some information on his character. So I am looking forward to that. It definitely makes it more exciting. I don't know how tense things really are going to be in the next episode or the one after that, if this does end up being like a 3-episode arc. But I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ending for sure. Definitely had some, like I said, it was like little stuff, in, you know, here and there, them referencing Boruto possibly having wind element attacks in the future. I thought was really nice. Them talking about, or Iwabe talking about, like, how crappy the village, you know, the Hidden Mist Village is and how dark they used to be, and him being super vague, like him saying all this stuff as if he knows a lot, but not saying, like, I know this because I used to live here. So it's like they're kind of teasing that idea. And just a lot of little things like them, like I said, still referencing Sarah and how she's kind of changed a little bit, stuff like that. So there's a lot of good stuff in this episode for sure. Once again, just like the last one, I was surprised about how much I actually enjoyed it. But I really loved the way they did the tension at the end. And it was like, it sucks that that was the ending, but I thought it was a really great way to end it, where it's like, okay, that was really nice, because the kids were totally outmatched. Like, if they got into a fight, maybe they could have survived because they were still 3 against 2, but it was clear that those guys had, you know, some good skills there. But I like the way they ended out the episode, and I am looking forward to the next one. But of course, I would love to know what you guys thought about this one, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it, and I would love to know your theories for what we might get from Iwabe's storyline during their time in the Hidden Mist Village, because it's got to be tied to some tragic story. That's why he hates the village. They killed his dad, his mom, his brother, or his sister, or all of the above. There's something there. There's got to be something there, because there's no reason for him to just randomly hate the village. So something dark had to have happened there. But I'm looking forward to it. Also, this is super random, but I realized that the 2 guys that were going up against the kids at the end of the episode, they both had sharp teeth, just like Zabuza. And I think it's like all the villain characters from the Hidden Mist Village have that, because I can't remember. I have to look, but I wasn't like looking at the dude's teeth. I don't think Kagura has it. I'm pretty sure the former Mizukage, I don't think she had like the sharp teeth, and I don't think the current guy does either. So it's like all the villain characters from the Hidden Mist Village always get like the shark teeth thing. And I thought, like, huh, that's very interesting, because I always notice it when I see it, but then I've never noticed it with the Mizukages or anything like that. And I didn't notice it with the Kagura guy either. So it's like all the bad people from the Hidden Mist Village always get the shark teeth thing going. So it's like, huh, that's probably been there since the very beginning, and I've never noticed it. Even though we don't see that many people from the Hidden Mist Village, but it was just interesting. Same thing with Suigetsu, like he has that too, and so did his brother when they did that during the war arc. So it's like all the bad guys from the Hidden Mist Village always get the sharp teeth. But that was just something I wanted to randomly mention, because I noticed it officially, like in this episode. I believe I did, because like I said, I have to look to see if Kagura had like the shark teeth thing going too. But decent episode. Like I said, looking forward to the next one. Of course, would love to know what you guys are expecting from Iwabe's storyline during this little arc. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.